New Orleans is well known for its vibrant streets, jazz, and Mardi Gras. However, a perilous reality was simmering beneath the festivities and music. The city turned into a battleground for drugs, violence, and survival throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Strong dealers ruled the streets, and the police, who were both allies and occasionally adversaries, battled to keep the peace. There was a tale of money, treachery, and terror on every block. A single mistake could take a life. We explore New Orleans' dope era tonight, a tale of corruption, power, and survival that permanently altered the city. The birth of the street empire. The dope era began quietly, but grew fast. Cocaine first entered New Orleans in small shipments, but by the early 1980s, demand skyrocketed. Small-time hustlers began to dominate neighborhoods, and ordinary corners transformed into drug corners. Teenagers were recruited as runners, lookouts, and enforcers. Dealers quickly realized they could make more money in a month than most families earned in a year. But with money came power, and with power came violence. Shootings became common, and rival crews fought for control of profitable corners. Families lived in fear as their homes became targets in turf wars. The streets became a world where respect was earned through fear and survival, and even children learned the harsh rules early. The NOPD on the edge. The New Orleans Police Department faced a nearly impossible challenge. With rising crime and limited resources, officers were often outnumbered and outgunned. Some cops risked their lives on dangerous raids, while others were tempted by bribes or connections with dealers. Rumors of officers working with drug crews circulated in neighborhoods, creating deep distrust between police and residents. Citizens didn't know who to trust was the officer protecting them or part of the problem. The pressure on the NOPD was immense. Raids often failed, officers were injured, and street dealers seemed one step ahead at all times. It was a constant game of cat and mouse, with the city's safety hanging in the balance. Legendary street figures. The streets of New Orleans had their kings. Figures like young Troy and other local bosses were more than criminals, they were tacticians. They ran networks of dealers, protected their corners, and often intimidated even law enforcement. Their names were feared and respected, and their influence extended beyond the streets. Some invested in legitimate businesses or helped neighbors, blurring the line between villain and community figure. Every corner had a story. Some bosses were ruthless, others cunning, but all left an indelible mark on the city. Their presence taught young people that survival required cunning, loyalty, and sometimes brutality. Crack cocaine explodes. When crack cocaine hit New Orleans, everything changed. Prices dropped, addiction soared, and violence became the norm. Families were torn apart as parents lost children to addiction or street life. Schools became unsafe as teens involved in drugs skipped classes or carried weapons. The city was in chaos, with drive-bys and shootings occurring in broad daylight. Crack wasn't just a product, it was a weapon that destroyed communities. Entire neighborhoods became trapped in fear, addiction, and poverty, creating a cycle that seemed impossible to break. The streets became a battleground where everyone was fighting to survive, and every day could be deadly. Corruption in the blue. Corruption within the NOPD intensified the crisis. Some officers took bribes from dealers, others ignored illegal activity, and a few actively helped drug networks thrive. Investigations and scandals occasionally surfaced, but systemic issues remained. Street crews learned quickly how to exploit the system. If a dealer paid the right officer or had the right connections, they could operate freely. This blurred the line between law enforcement and crime, leaving residents unsure whom they could trust. It created a city where fear and influence were more powerful than the law, and survival depended on knowing who had loyalty, power, and weapons. Turf wars and bloodshed. The streets were a constant war zone. Rival crews fought violently over profitable corners and drug routes. Shootouts, stabbings, and intimidation were everyday realities. Teenagers were recruited as soldiers and trained in survival and enforcement. Each gang member learned that one mistake could cost them their life. Drug lords adapted by using coded communication, lookouts, and strategic alliances to protect their empires. Even when police intervened, many raids failed because street crews anticipated their every move. The streets became a deadly chessboard where power, cunning, and fear determined every outcome. Community fight back. Amid the chaos, New Orleans communities fought back. Churches, schools, and local leaders tried to create safe spaces for youth. Mentorship programs, after-school activities, and neighborhood watch groups emerged to guide kids away from the streets. Some community leaders even negotiated with local bosses to reduce violence in their neighborhoods. While these efforts rarely made national headlines, they saved countless lives. Residents refused to surrender their neighborhoods entirely to drugs and gangs, showing resilience and courage despite the constant threat of violence. Music, hip-hop, and street culture. Even in the darkest times, art emerged from the streets. Hip-hop and rap in New Orleans reflected the pain, struggle, and ambition of its residents. Artists like B.G. rose from these neighborhoods, using music to tell stories of survival and danger. Music became a tool for storytelling, capturing the raw reality of the streets. It also became a form of escape, offering hope and inspiration to young people caught in the same cycle of crime and poverty. The dope era's influence extended far beyond violence. It shaped the city's culture and gave voice to those who lived in fear but refused to be silenced. Shocking tragedies. The era was marked by moments of shocking violence. Shootings happened in public areas, often in front of children. Police raids sometimes ended in death or injury, while rival gangs escalated conflicts with brutal efficiency. Families lost loved ones, and neighborhoods lived in constant tension. Every day brought new threats, from street violence to police confrontations. Life on the streets demanded constant vigilance, courage, and a willingness to act fast. One wrong move could mean permanent consequences. Legacy of the dope era. By the late 1990s, crack's dominance lessened, but the scars remained. Families struggled to rebuild, neighborhoods worked to regain safety, and distrust between residents and the NOPD lasted decades. However, the dope era left a cultural and historical imprint. Music, art, and storytelling carried the raw experiences of survival, ambition, and danger into the wider world. The streets of New Orleans taught lessons about power, resilience, and the thin line between law and chaos. The city's identity was forever shaped by a time when every corner had a story, every figure had influence, and every day could change a life. The dope era of New Orleans was more than crime. It was a story of fear, power, and survival. Every block had secrets, every figure had a story, and every street told a tale that could shock or inspire. If you want to uncover the hidden truths of other cities' dark pasts, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the streets always have more stories waiting to be revealed.